My name is Randy Wong. I'm a program manager on the OneDrive team, and I'm excited to share with you how OneDrive powers intelligent file experiences across Microsoft 365. And OneDrive is so foundational to everything you do in Microsoft 365. When you think about files and content and collaboration, it's so intertwined. And during this time of remote work, it's even more important to access your files on any device, no matter where you are, from home, from work, for on the go, to be able to collaborate and share your files when you're working at any remote location, to do it asynchronously or synchronously in real time. You want to be able to find that content and organize that content so you can easily get to it whenever you want. And lastly, but not least, keeping those files backed up, secure, and protected is our priority to keep you guys safe. I just want to take a second to thank everyone for all the great partnership through the years. We thank our partners, our customers, our MVPs, because without you, we wouldn't be anywhere. Today, I'd like to highlight 4 key customers and across a breadth of different industries: Ecolab, Gap, Chevron, and Walmart. All these companies have embraced their digital transformation, really embracing OneDrive at the heart of their strategy and using OneDrive to collaborate, to share, to access those files from anywhere. And it's not just these 4 companies that we want to celebrate, but the product has grown 100% year over year in active use. That's just an amazing number, and I thank you for the partnership. And each one of these active users represents a human being. It represents the student who's getting their homework. It represents the nurse that's getting their shift. It represents the company that's keeping critical business operations going because their files are in OneDrive. So it's incredibly humbling for us, and we thank you for the partnership and helping this OneDrive product be so successful. Today, we're going to cover 3 key areas, and we're going to walk through some of the recent innovations, some of the great new features for your end users to try out. We're going to talk about how OneDrive powers not just files in their app, but across all of Microsoft 365, and how collaboration is increasingly woven into every experience in Microsoft 365, and show how OneDrive provides security and visibility for both admins and end users. So first, we'll talk about how OneDrive powers Microsoft 365 files. And you've probably heard this question from your users: when to use OneDrive versus Teams versus SharePoint? And I'm here to say that you can use them all together and they work well seamlessly together. OneDrive is the place where you work with all your files. Teams is the place where you work with your team, and SharePoint is where you get work done across your organization. But all the files that you create in SharePoint, in Teams, are accessible through OneDrive. Similarly, you can access those files through Teams and SharePoint. And we're going to show you today how these work so seamlessly together. So here I am on the OneDrive website, and for today's demo, I'm Megan Bowen at Contoso Electronics, and I'm working on some drone projects. But the first thing I want to show you is this is our new web experience, and we are actually making it a lot faster. We've increased the performance by 20%, and we measure a stat called time to interactive, and that stat has improved by 20%. But it's not just the responsiveness of the website. Search is also improved. So when I click in the search box, look how fast the most recent documents show up. And if I start typing into the search box, you can see that it automatically is trying to find the files that I'm searching for. And that happens super, especially in this time of remote work and home networks. We understand how important it is to have great performance, and we're working hard to make that performance better. A couple of things to note about the website. So this is the general My Files view, but we also have views for shared and shared libraries. And shared libraries, this is where there's a connection to SharePoint and Teams. and you're able to access those files directly from the OneDrive interface. Similarly, you're able to access your OneDrive content through Teams. Here I'm going to click on Mark 8 project. This is a project that I'm working on, and dive into this general tab. And you can see that this folder is connected to a channel in Microsoft Teams. This folder was created when I created a team. And here I have all the rich metadata, like this status column, but also things like custom formatting, how this row is red because it's not started. And all of this power of SharePoint is within the OneDrive user experience. Now, if I click over to Teams, here I am in Teams, and that same OneDrive experience that I showed of all your files, you have that experience within the Files tab in Teams. And if I want to click over to those same files I saw for the Mark 8 project, I just click over to Teams, Mark 8 project, General, and you see those same files with the same custom formatting and the same status that you saw in that previous OneDrive page. So here I am back in OneDrive, and one of the things that we've really tried to do is tie conversations to files. So what that means is that if I click on a file, let's say I click on this annual report, I have information about this file within this file card. So all I did was hover over that file, and I have this rich information. I have information like time to read, how long this document takes to read, and this is all through intelligence from the Microsoft Graph. I can, without diving into the document, I can even see some of the content, some of the highlights from this report, and I don't even have to open the document. I already know that our sales have breached previous year's expectations, which is a great thing. I'm able to see where this file was mentioned. So I can see this file was mentioned in an Outlook email to Larry at Fabricam Airlines, and this link or this file was shared in that email message. I can also see that this file was shared in Teams through a Teams chat with Miriam. I also have rich information about viewers and views, and views tells me how many people have actually viewed the document and over what period of time. And I can see on May 11th this was accessed, and also on November 4th, 2019. And the two people that have viewed it are myself and Grady. And this is invaluable information as I try to understand the reach and the scope of the work that I'm working on. And then one thing that I'm excited to share with you is that we're adding a new feature called Add to OneDrive. And Add to OneDrive allows you to really manage your shared content. So I have files that are shared with me in this shared view. You can see I've shared with me and shared by me. Within shared with me, there's a number of different folders that have been shared with me. But I don't always want to have to go to the shared with me view to view these folders. I would love it if it was just in my main OneDrive experience. And so now we allow you to do that. As you see, I clicked on this folder and I get this shortcut command that's add shortcut to my files. And I can actually bring this folder, a shortcut of this folder, into my files view. So I don't have to always go to the share view. I can just access it through the My Files. So here I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Shortcut to My Files. And you can see that Miriam's prototype folder, a shortcut was just added to My Files. So if I go back to My Files view, you can see that Miriam's prototype was added to My Files. And you can see that this folder isn't actually owned by me. It's actually owned by Nestor. Nestor is the one that shared Miriam's prototype. Similarly, when I'm done with this folder, I can always remove the shortcut. So Add to OneDrive is a great way for you to add shared content into your My Files view. You can also do the same thing with files in shared libraries. So within shared libraries, remember that Mark 8 project team folder. I can go to the general and also add this shortcut to OneDrive. So again, ways to bring content from SharePoint, from Teams into OneDrive. Now I'll switch over to the desktop client to show you how these folders show up. So here I am on the OneDrive desktop client, and as you can see, here's my OneDrive Contoso node. I want to quickly show you that Miriam's prototype folder that we had earlier moved, added the shortcut to OneDrive, that's now showing in my OneDrive Contoso. But I want to show a couple other things first. Here we have desktop documents and pictures. These have been redirected from the local device to OneDrive, and now these folders are protected with OneDrive, and we call this feature known folder move. Another feature I want to call your attention to is the cloud, and the cloud icon means that these files are in the cloud and not synced locally to the device. And this is what we call files on demand. You can hydrate them by clicking on them and bringing them down, or you can leave them offline. And we think this is great, especially for some of those remote work scenarios where you're dealing with home networks and you don't want to sync all the whole file down to your local device. So I'll go ahead and click into Big Projects. And here you see I have a bunch of files and folders, and a couple of them have already been synced down. But I wanted to show specifically this big file, and this is a 100 gigabyte file. Previously, we only supported 15 gigabyte files, but we've raised the limit up to 100 gigabyte files, as you can see. And when I look at the properties of this file, you can see that there are 100. The size of this file is 100 gigabytes, but 0 bytes of this are actually on the local disk of this computer. So it's saving a lot of disk space by not syncing it down on this device. Another big feature that we recently released was Differential Sync. And with Differential Sync, I can take a file and only sync the difference. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click on Norway Mountains, and this is going to bring up a big bitmap picture, and I'm going to go ahead and add my signature to this file. And so I'll type in my initials and place it, and then I'll go ahead and save it. So what's happening in the background is I'll pull up the sync client, and you can see that only 2 megabytes of this 98.7 megabyte file was actually synced. So I didn't have to sync the other 96 megabytes, only that 2 megabytes synced, and that's why it was so fast. Another great feature that we've brought to the sync client is version history. So let's say I didn't really want to make that change to Norway Mountains. I can right click, go to version history, and get a full version history of that Norway Mountains file and actually revert to an earlier time if I wanted to do that. So version history, files on demand, and known folder move, and 100 gigabyte file size, great features that we brought to the sync client. So now we'll just recap what we just saw in demo. We showed you OneDrive files showcased in Teams and the ability to see your OneDrive files in Teams and Teams files in OneDrive. We showed you intelligence with file card conversations, where you can see where your file was mentioned in either Outlook or in Teams conversations. And also things like views and viewers and inside look to give you more context about the files that you're working with. We showed you add to OneDrive, the latest way to manage your shared content within the experience of OneDrive to bring content and folders shared with you or folders from shared libraries into OneDrive for both the web and the sync client. And we showed you things like large file support for support up to 100 gigabyte file size, as well as differential sync, which allows you to only sync the small changes that have happened to those files. For the next section, we'll talk about how OneDrive powers collaboration across Microsoft 365. And we know that strong teamwork is the foundation for so many successful businesses, and OneDrive is making it easier to share wherever you are. OneDrive powers sharing across Microsoft 365 with the common sharing dialog across web, desktop, and mobile. So you have the same sharing experience from OneDrive, from SharePoint, from PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, and Word, from the desktop, from Windows Explorer to Mac Finder, and Outlook and Teams. Same sharing experience across all those different places within Microsoft 365, powered by OneDrive. So here we are in Outlook web application, and you can see again, I'm Megan Bowen. I've typed a message to Nestor to review this document. I've pasted this link in from OneDrive. And you'll notice that if I click on this link, I actually get that same common sharing dialog option. In this case, I've set the link permissions to people in Contoso with this link can edit. But if I wanted to change that, I can easily click on that link to change the settings of the specific link. And here you can see I have options: anyone with the link, recipients of this message, people with existing access, and I can change those settings to that link. But let's say that I want to keep the settings to people in this organization with the link. What if I typed in some external user like Larry at Fabricam Airlines? You'll notice that I have this little red eye that shows up. And this eye actually means that people outside your organization won't be able to open this ad slogans. If you remember, I set the link to people in Contoso with this link, and because Larry is not part of Contoso, he won't have access if he gets this link. Now this feature will save him for when he clicks on that link. If he received that email and get an error message, now I can change the actual link to make it work for him. If I wanted, I can change that to recipients of this message, and you'll see that that error goes away. So this is a great way where you see OneDrive powering the sharing experience within Outlook, and all those policies, all those link settings that you set for your OneDrive also apply in OA and the Outlook web experience. Next, we'll show you what sharing looks like in Teams. So here I am in the Teams experience, and you can see I'm chatting with Miriam, and I want to share a file with her. I'll click on attach, and here I have the option to attach a file from OneDrive. And this isn't actually attaching the file, but it's, again, creating a link for that file. Let's choose 518 meeting notes. And here you can see I have that same option to dig deeper and pull up the common share dialog. So you can see the initial setting was anyone with the link. I also have the opportunity to change that link. Let's say Miriam wants to forward that to someone in her organization. I can change that to people in your organization. But I also have this option, people currently in this chat. So the only person that would be able to access that link would be Miriam. Let's say I want to choose that. I can apply that permissions to that link. So the only person that can access that link is Miriam. And I'll go ahead and send it. And then she has a special link to that file. So again, another way to quickly show that OneDrive is powering the file and sharing experiences within both Outlook and Teams. Here again, I am at the OneDrive experience, and I'll go ahead and click on a file to share. I'm going to choose Contoso 5-year vision. And I'm going to go ahead and share this externally, securely to Larry at Fabricam. So in this case, I'll choose specific people. And I want Larry to be able to see it, but I don't want him to be able to download this file. So I'll go ahead and choose block download and remove the option to allow editing. I'll go ahead and type in larry@fabricameairlines.com. And it tells me that Larry's outside the organization. So I'll go ahead and send him this secure link. Now I'm going to jump over to Larry's recipient experience. So now I'm playing the role of Larry from Fabricam Airlines, and this is his Gmail account. And you can see that Megan's mail just came through that she shared this Contoso 5-year vision with me. I'll go ahead and click that link and click on open. And it will tell me that I need to request a verification code. This code is only good for Larry at Fabricam Airlines, and it's only good for 15 minutes. So I'll go ahead and click on send code and then go back to the email account, and I just got the verification code. This is a feature we call one-time passcode because this passcode is only good one time for that 15-minute time period. And I'll go ahead and enter the code. And you see I didn't have to create a separate account, but I was able to get into the document, and you see this bar across the top that says I don't have permission to download or print this file. So I can still be productive and access this file as an external user, but as a company, Contoso is protected and they don't have to worry about Larry stealing this file or downloading it to his local computer. Pretty cool, huh? Now back to the web experience. So now that we're back on the OneDrive web experience, I'm going to show you two other sharing features that we've recently rolled out. The first one is file requests. So I'm going to click on a folder, request for proposals, and I'm going to request files. And think of this as instead of sharing out, it's ingesting sharing in. So I'm able to create a folder, send the link to other recipients, and they're able to upload files to this folder securely without seeing who else's files are being put up there. So I'll go ahead and create this link, and I can copy this link and create this file request. And I can go ahead and paste that link into a chat, into an email, and people can go ahead and upload their files to that folder. That's a great new feature we call file requests. And lastly, I just wanted to show you how OneDrive powers collaboration within the Office applications. We'll go ahead and click into that 518 meeting notes. And because this file is on OneDrive, I can collaborate in real time with my coworkers. And you can see things like @mentions and comments on this file. These are fairly new features that we've rolled out in the last 6 months, but I can now create an @mention. Let's say I want to @mention Adele, and she'll get a notification, but I can also assign a task to her. So I can say, Adele, please review. And then when she receives that notification and finishes reviewing, she can check off that task. Awesome. So those are just a couple of the great new sharing and collaboration features that we've brought to OneDrive. So to recap what I just showed you, we showed sharing integration in Outlook, sharing integration in Microsoft Teams, bringing the power of the share dialog to both Outlook and Teams. We showed secure external sharing for specific people links to allow you to send a one-time passcode to external users. We show you how to block download so that recipient can't print or download that file. We showed you request files, a secure way to ingest content and send a link to recipients to upload files without seeing what else is in that folder. And lastly, we showed you the power of @mentions and tasks in Word and in Excel, and the ability to reply to comments straight out of Outlook. All these features are available now, and we hope you try them out soon. For our last section, We're going to talk about how OneDrive provides security options for both admins and end users and provides visibility to help keep files safe. We know that the security landscape is rapidly changing. McAfee said that in the last year, there was over $1 trillion spent in cyber crime costs, and 88% of organizations are no longer confident they detect and prevent loss of sensitive data. We're doing everything we can, both with policies and protection, to make sure that your end users don't leak that content. Here I am in the SharePoint Admin Center, and this is the sharing controls that I can apply sharing policies and settings to both SharePoint and OneDrive. Here you see I have the little slider that allows me to set who content can be shared with, either through anyone links or new and existing guests. We also have a number of specific settings just for external sharing. So I can limit sharing to specific domains. Let's say I want to only allow sharing to Fabricam Airlines or a close partner, but block sharing to other domains like a personal Gmail account. I can do that with this control. We also allow you to only allow users in specific security groups to share externally. And you can see a couple of the other settings that I have checked. You can allow guests to share items they don't own, and you can allow expiration of guests on a site or OneDrive after X amount of days, and we'll show you how this looks in the end user experience. We also have different controls for the default links. So in this tenant, it's set up for anyone links, but you can also change that to make it company shareable links, only people in your organization, and also set the defaults if you want to be more permissive or less permissive with your default links, in this case, view or edit links. So lots of different settings to control sharing and who can have access to the files that you share. Now, sharing is one vector, but you also want to make sure that your content, sensitive content, doesn't leave the organization. And one way to do that is through labels and different policies. So I'll jump over. So here I am in the Security and Compliance Center, and you can see I've set up some labels for my organization. I have a general label, a confidential label, and a highly confidential label. And so end users can either manually classify their content by adding a label to their documents, or you can set up auto labeling for those files. So if they contain a specific keyword, they'll automatically be labeled something like confidential. And in addition to this, we also have policies for sensitive information for things like credit cards or personal identifiable information. And those we'll just show you once we get to the OneDrive user experience, how they show up. So for the first one, we'll go into a specific document. Again, we'll go into this 518 meetings document, and you can see where that classification label, sensitivity label shows up. And this is actually here. You can set, let's say I want to make this highly confidential. I can go ahead and choose highly confidential. And I've set up a policy so when I go to print this file, I actually will see a little header at the top which says that this file is confidential. So you see this is highly confidential information. If someone tries to print it and hand it out, they'll see that this is highly confidential information. You also see a watermark on this file that says it's highly confidential. So there's no confusing that this is a confidential file. We've set up the policy so people will know. Going back to data loss prevention, this file has credit card information, and it has aptly the title sensitive document. But if I go into the details pane, I'll see that this file has been flagged with sensitive information and can't be shared with people outside your organization. You can see that this policy tip says that this item contains social security number information. And so let's say that I want to go ahead and try to share this file with someone like Larry at Fabricam again. So you can see when I go and click Larry at Fabricam, there he is. It tells me that I can't share this because it contains sensitive information. So this is another way where OneDrive and Microsoft 365 is helping protect the end users from leaking sensitive information in their organization. And so the last two features I'll go ahead and show are expiring access and sharing reports. And these are both ways that the end user, in this case again Megan Bowen, can see what if her files are being shared or if who she's been sharing with. So I go ahead and click on Settings, More Settings, and go ahead and go into Manage Guest Expiration. So remember what I was in that admin center and I saw that policy that required guests to lose access after 30 days. Well, here are some of the guests that I've recently shared with. I have the option to extend or remove access completely for these users. So any file that I've shared with them and they try to access, they won't be able to access anymore once I click on this remove access. So if I choose that, yes, I'll remove access. And next time that Bob tries to access files, he won't be able to. Let's say that our project has expired. That might be a good time when I want to go in and check to see who I want to expire from this OneDrive. Another common piece of feedback we get is sharing reports, and people want to know who they've shared data with, what are the outstanding links for the different documents in your organization. And here I'm going to run a sharing report. I'm going to create it and put it in the sharing report folder. So here I am back in Megan's OneDrive, and I click on that folder, that sharing reports folder. And you can see I have created a CSV file that shows me all the people that I've shared with, what types of links and permissions I have on various files, and I can create a report or a better visualization of this in Power BI if I need to. To recap, we showed you how to control sharing for internal and external users using the SharePoint admin page. We showed you sensitivity labels and how to apply those settings to an individual document, and data loss prevention for policy tips and blocking sharing to external users. We also showed you how to expire external access. So if you have users that you don't want access to your OneDrive anymore, you can easily expire them at the end of a project. And we showed you external sharing reports, which give you visibility into who you shared with and what types of links are outstanding. So here you see the OneDrive roadmap, and across the 4 different pillars: create and access, share and collaborate, organize and find, protect and secure. We've talked about a lot of features today. I gave you a whirlwind tour of a lot of the great new features that are coming to your organization are already there. Here you'll see all the items in green. Those are rolling out or have already rolled out, so you should look for those in your organization. A couple of the big ones in the create and access bucket, we talked about 100 gig file size, differential sync, version history on the desktop. In the share and collaborate pillar, you saw things like the ability to share from Teams, updates to @mentions, and replying to Office comments and block download. In organize and find, we showed you the conversations in the file card and the exciting new innovations with Add to OneDrive. And lastly, with protect and secure, we showed you sensitivity labels, DLP, and some of the great features like expiring access on external users. And we know that it's not enough to know about all these features, but really you need to get these in the hands of your end users. So I'd just like to wrap up with a few key pointers on migration, deployment, and adoption. On the migration side, we supply 3 key ways to migrate. There's the self-service SharePoint migration tool. We provide the fast track benefits for competitive migrations from products like Box, Dropbox, and Google Drive. And then we work with a number of different third parties for partner-led migrations off premises, on premises, and SharePoint, other SharePoint versions, as well as file shares and home drives to move your content into the cloud. And again, it's so important that you get those files in OneDrive so you're able to experience all the capabilities that we showed today. We also purchased a company, Mover, last year, and we're proud to announce that Mover services are free and they're available worldwide. So if you want to learn more about how you can use Mover for migrations, please contact Mover and us, and we can help you get started. When it comes to deployment, we really encourage folks to check out the documentation on aka.ms/sync ideal state. And this is really to help you get your company in the best state when it comes to the desktop OneDrive client. And a couple of the key steps. First, updates and rings. Make sure that you have some of your users in Insiders, if not all of them, so they get the most frequent updates. Make sure that the Windows notification service has allowed traffic to your URL. We've seen cases where a URL has blocked sync and you're unable to sync for specific users or the whole organization. Make sure files on demand is turned on. Like we showed before, those 100 gig files, you don't want them all the way on the local device if possible. So make sure that files on demand is on. Office integration, all the collaboration features are enabled when you have Office integration, things like the comments, mentions, and the share dialog. Silent account config helps you to log your users in without them having to prompt and sign in again, but really using the credentials from the device. And that's a key feature. And then known folder move to make sure that the documents, desktop, and pictures folders are backed up and secure in the cloud. So those are some of the great guidance that we've learned through best practices from working with many other customers. And then I just wanted to call out virtual desktop environments. We see a big spike in use of virtual desktop in this remote learning environment. We've seen over 7x increase in usage of OneDrive and virtual desktop, and we provide ways to manage and work in non-persistent multi-user environments like Windows Virtual Desktop or with FS Logix, another company that we purchased last year. And we provide Windows files on demand on Windows Server 2019. And then lastly, we have a number of different adoption materials that we've accumulated through the years to really help you get your users educated about which features to use when. These include things like getting started guides, videos, and really best practices on how to recruit stakeholders, how to get the right scenario set up for your company, and how to train your end users so they're ready to get the most out of OneDrive. And that wraps it up for today. Here's a list of resources. We really appreciate your time and take care. Thank you.